So at this point, I'd like to call our second speaker, Professor Rene T. Domingo. But before I give the floor to Prof. RTD, I'd like to formally introduce him. Professor Rene T. Domingo, or RTD, as he is known to many, is a core faculty in operations management since 1982 at our esteemed Asian Institute of Management. He is an international consultant, author, professor, and lecturer in the fields of operations, management, production management, total quality management, turnaround management, Six Sigma, world-class manufacturing, supply chain management, 5S, and total productive maintenance. He is an industrial engineer, graduated magna cum laude at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and he has more than 30 years of consulting and training experience covering manufacturing, construction, mining, petrochemicals, healthcare, banking, and advertising in Southeast Asia, India, Guam, Marshall Islands, Vietnam, and Germany. Professor RTD was Japan educated in management engineering. He earned his Master of Science in Management Engineering at the Nagoya Institute of Technology with intensive hands-on training and experience in the Toyota production system in Japan. He is the author of well-known best-selling books, Quality Means Survival, A Guide on Total Quality Management, published by Prentice Hall, It's the Customer, Your Real Boss, a book on world-class banking services, Turnaround Management, Best Practices from the Indonesian Experience, and What is World-Class Factory, a definitive article on world-class manufacturing. He is the publisher of the website www.rtdonline.com, a one-stop shop guide on business management, and the RTD Knowledge YouTube channel, a learning site for process analysis and process improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to give you one of the best professor and guru that I had during my AIM Executive MBA journey. My professor, Sir Rene RTD Domingo. Prof. Rene?
Thank you, Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prof.
Let me share my screen. Okay.
Okay, Prof. Rene, yeah.
Can you see my screen?
It's coming. Yes, it's there, Prof.
Okay, good evening to everyone. So thank you for joining me in this short learning session. So let's go to our topic today, how we can recover from this crisis. I know that your concern are only two, right? Number one is how not to get infected. Number two is how to save your business. So I'm gonna talk about the number two. Okay? How do we recover from this economic crisis? So two of my books mentioned by Mike are really about crisis management. So I've written about how do you cope with the Made in Japan quality invasion in the 1970s. This was the pandemic at that time because they were stealing market share all over the world. Okay? And the other one is the Asian financial crisis. How do you cope with this economic crisis back in the 1998? So what I learned from these two researches are very simple. It's not only how well you recover from the crisis, but also how fast you recover. Equally important. Speed is of the essence. Okay? And when we talk about recovery, there are actually two ways to do that, two approaches, especially in relation to this pandemic. One is a turnaround. In other words, when there is a economic recovery, you go back to the old normal, and your same value proposition will still be relevant. So all you need to do is just that traditional reconstruction, refinance, rehab, reorganize. Okay, so this is recovery. So from old normal, you go back to the old normal. But as mentioned by the first speaker, we're not going back to the old normal. Okay, maybe some industries will remain relevant, like utilities, groceries, hardware, which I will discuss. But most other industries will have a big problem. They cannot do turnaround. They have to do pivot or transformation. In other words, they have to reset their value proposition to recover. You cannot recover by selling more of the same. It's not back to business. So this kind of recovery will involve a little bit more rethinking, a resetting, a reboot, a reinvention, a reimagination, a retooling. I will discuss this thing more in detail today, more on the pivot. Everybody's familiar with the typical turnaround. You just restructure your loan, ask for more money, downsize your workforce. Okay, this is straightforward. This is more complex and ironically much more needed during these times of great change, as mentioned by the first speaker. Okay, so everybody's familiar with the VUCA world, and this is not theory. This is something we're actually experiencing now. It's a perfect storm. This pandemic is a 3-in-1 crisis. No? It's a health, economic, and social crisis at the same time. We thought it was just a health crisis. Then it became a global economic crisis. Now it's even worse. It's a social crisis. People changing behavior. There is social unrest. There is humanitarian crisis. People avoiding this, avoiding that. People getting traumatized, no? on how they move on with their lives, how they buy, how they sell, how they educate themselves. So there's a big change in society. In fact, this is the reason for many businesses going down under, or many businesses that will shut down. It's not because of the health or economic crisis, which are gonna be short-term, they will end. But the social crisis will not end. It will linger. Okay? It will linger. And this change in behavior is what we have to prepare for, because this defines our markets, this defines our products and services. So we have to retool. So just like a hospital, we have to triage. We have very few resources, the government and also businesses. So we have to know who to help and who not to help. Okay? We cannot help everyone. We cannot help everyone. So I have this 20-60-20 rule. So the first group is people who will survive this pandemic, who's well managed, and their products continue to be relevant, like utilities, gasoline, so they don't need help. The other extreme is totally, these people will not survive, these businesses, totally unneeded in the new normal when we open up, but they're very mismanaged, and their business model really is beyond help. So two groups of industries that don't need help. Not what we're talking about. Recovery is the remaining 60 in limbo. No? In limbo. If they do nothing, they join the second group. If they do something, they may join the first group. So who are these in the gray area? These are the industries that need to pivot. They still have a chance. They still have time. Okay? But they have to retool. They cannot do a business turnaround. They have to do transformation. So summary, okay, we don't have this group. We don't have this group. We focus on this group. Okay? It's just a matter of classifying your business where you belong, which I will help you do later on. Where am I in these categories? So first things first, surviving, defense first, defense. We cannot thrive unless we survive. So let's survive first. Let's survive. So quick ideas on defensive strategy, okay? Regardless on where you're going after this. One is just like in any emergency case, cut the bleeding. Okay? Know the vital signs. Know the vital signs. Take care of your cash. Take care of the flow of orders from clients. Make sure your customers still around. You still have some customers left. Take care of your people, your key people. They still come to work. And of course, take care of your supply chain. Can they still deliver supplies and inputs? Okay, the basics. So it's not just cash flow that's important. Order flow, supply flow, and workflow. So make sure you have all these 4 elements before we go to the next stage. The next thing is, let's focus on cash. I think this is the conversation nowadays. Burning cash. How do we stop the burning? Because it seems to me that most businesses are really much concerned about burning cash. And we have been burning cash for 20 months. How long can we burn cash? How long? So one way is to stop the bleeding, liquidate all inventories, all those non-moving inventories with fire sale prices. Don't wait for slow-moving stocks to become non-moving. Sell your receivables at a discount before they lose value. Okay? Okay. Liquidate all your liquid asset. Stop all those cash-heavy expenses like subscriptions, etc. Pre-terminate your lease that of space that you don't need, because these are all cash-based. Okay? Shut down all non-earning facilities so that you turn off their utilities like electricity and water. And finally, don't buy in bulk. Don't buy for quantity discounts because you don't need them. It's very cash. You think you're saving money, but you're not. You're not. And maybe in the good old days you can buy in quantity and get discount, but this is not the case today. You don't have the cash to buy those huge amounts just to get a few savings. So preserve cash rather than savings. That's the most important defensive strategy. Now, when it comes to break even, and everybody's those troubled businesses are operating below break even because of the collapse in demand, you have to lower your break even sales so that you don't burn cash. Okay? So there are 4 steps I advise, and there may be many more. Number 1 is cut fixed costs. Of course, this is the one that will increase your break even. Okay? Improve the efficiency of your processes, cut all those unnecessary overheads, people, and assets. Number 2, convert your fixed cost to variable cost. So again, this will lower your break even. Outsource what you can outsource. Lease, do not buy. Okay? Lease land, lease equipment, do not buy them because that will just increase your fixed cost and your break-even sales, because you cannot increase sales during this pandemic. Okay? And you don't want to go below break-even because that will just burn your cash. Secondly, if you can, reduce your variable cost, improve your efficiency, explore new materials. This will further improve your denominator here by cutting your variable cost. And of course, if you have the means to increase price, why not? Because increasing price will increase margin. But there's an assumption here. Your product is still relevant. Right? You cannot increase price if your product is no longer relevant. But if your price is still relevant, your product is still relevant, you can add value. By adding value, you can increase price, you increase margin, then you lower your break even. Okay? Now I'm going to talk about companies that cannot increase price because their customers are financially challenged and their product cannot be sold at a premium. So what do? Okay, don't price to recover cost. Just liquidate your inventories. This will generate cash. Okay? Profit is the least of your problem today. It's cash flow, at least in the short and medium term. Okay? What will kill businesses is illiquidity, not unprofitability. Secondly, don't price to make profits. You price to create a relationship, especially if you're going to e-commerce. Develop relationships so you get all those repeat orders. Okay? Don't milk your customers early. You need to have long-term relationship. You need them. So don't be focused first on increasing profitability. Increase the strength of your relationship. Don't overprice to maximize gain. You price to maximize affordability. Get more sales rather than profit. Okay? Between sales and profit, it's better to get sales because that's relationship. Okay? You can increase profits later on. And finally, don't do cost plus because cost plus can yield higher prices. That's not relevant in the new normal. Okay? You work backwards, get the affordable price, subtract the profit, then you get the cost. Then hit that cost with your continuous improvement program. Okay? Never do cost plus because nobody will buy the resulting price when you do that kind of pricing. Do price minus. Okay, let's go to the more complex one. Now that's out of the way. Assuming you survive, you can now breathe, you have cash, you have people. What to do next? So a defensive strategy is not enough to survive. You need to do something different. Okay? Now you're stabilized. How do you move forward? How do you thrive? Okay? So having enough cash is not enough. You can still fail even if you have all those elements of survival unless you have offensive. Okay, fortunately, our first speaker has covered this portion of my talk. What are the changes in the environment? So I'll just summarize quickly. So to move towards offensive strategy, you should know the new lay of the land. We have to zoom out, but what's happening in the new environment? Okay? How do we translate problems into opportunities? There are new fears. These were highlighted by our first speaker, new pain points. So how do you convert them to new markets, customers, products, and services? So basically, this is what we're going to do. Right? I'm not going to go nitty-gritty per industry, but this is the framework. Okay? Don't worry about fears. These are our problems. We convert them to opportunities. We productize the new behavior rather than regret, rather than keep selling them the old stuff. Okay? They have changed. So we have to adapt to this change by developing new business models. So new market expectation, let me just summarize what was mentioned earlier. People want four things. Today and in the new normal, they want health, they want safety, they want convenience, they want frugality. Of course, everybody wants this before the pandemic, more so now. They're more health conscious, safety, convenience conscious, frugality, basic, back to basics. So, meaning that they would want products and services with less contact, less interaction, fast service, fast processing, traceability, documentation, well-being and fitness, minimal travel and movement to get what they want. They'd rather get it from home. They want affordability, value for money because they've lost their jobs, they've lost income. Right? So they cannot have a lot of excess money for expensive discretionary items, which I will discuss later on. Again, back to basics, right? And mentioned by the first speaker, our community, our life has been compressed, a radius being compressed around our home. So personal, we shop from home, we celebrate at home. So look at these trends. What can we productize in this new social behavior? We work from home, we sell from home, we study from home, we teach from home. We can add something else. We can get treated at home. Now the house is becoming a hospital. Okay? We quarantine at home. We heal at home. So a lot of opportunities with these home-based trends. Okay? Even in shopping, I already mentioned, people will go after convenience. They will have purposeful shopping instead of impulse. They will go to neighborhood shopping instead of downtown. One stop instead of multi-shop. They will do infrequent short shopping rather than regular long shopping trips. More of solo shopping rather than group shopping. Value for money rather than brand loyalty. Sellers searching for buyers. There'll be now buyers searching for sellers online. So relationship selling instead of transaction. And more proactive selling will be needed rather than reactive. Because people cannot do window shopping. You have to find them. Okay. With that, two more survey before I go to the pivot. So a lot of studies have shown that discretionary spending will drop. Okay. Now this is a huge portion of GDP for many countries and a huge portion of the sales of many industries. So if discretionary spending will drop, what do you do? What do you do? A lot of global economy, even local economies, depends on discretionary shopping, like travel and tourism. This is discretionary. When you go shopping in the mall, more than half of what you buy is discretionary. Movies, all these things. So how do you adapt to this? Secondly, time frame. When this thing will stop? IATA is supposed to be the most optimistic of the group about the air, but IATA says this thing will not go away until 2024. And maybe longer, because once if there are new variants, this can extend to several more years. So Yon is correct. A 5-year forecast, nobody can do a 5-year forecast. We don't know what will happen. So we have to move fast. We have to pivot fast. We have to adapt. Adapt is not enough. We have to adapt fast. Once opportunities are appear, we have to productize that right away. We have no time for long-term product development. That's why I recommend pivot. Okay. Now, you want to be optimist, pessimist? My suggestion, let's be a pessimist. Okay? Because pessimist, we do something. Optimist, you do nothing. Let's pivot now, so that in case the economic recovery is longer, in the expected outcome, you're ahead compared to the companies who do nothing and just wait and see for normalize. This is going to be a long, protracted recovery. So it's better to pivot now and gain when the economy reopens with your new value proposition. Okay, so pivot is something like this. Okay, as I told you, it's not only the how, but how fast. So you look at your strength, your competency currently, and you find it in your product, process, people, property, position. Look at all your strength in this, which strengths you may be using or not using currently. And then find out which one can you productize, repurpose, extend, or leverage, so that you can meet the new needs and new markets that I've just described earlier, which the first speaker just described. And then come up with a new compelling value proposition, new value for money, some game-changing experience. So what's the difference? Conventional transformation, you start from scratch. You ignore what you have. You ignore what you have. In pivot, you're not starting at the blank sheet. That's why this makes you faster. You're repurposing what you already have. But you're not selling more of the same. You're using the same strength. You drop your old products, but you produce new products using the same strengths. Okay? So this is going to be fast because time is of the essence. You have so much, you have so little time, so little cash. So when to pivot, not just during a crisis when sales are declining, end of product life, sunset industry, there's a serious threat, there's commoditization of your product, when there's disruption, and when there is a crisis. So we're gonna talk about the last two. So pivot is not just during crisis. When the industry reaches the end of life or the product, then it's time to pivot before it happens. So let's now go more specific to the pandemic. So who will be saved? Who will not be saved? Who needs to pivot? There are two dimensions that's playing in this pandemic based on the new expectation. One is low-touch industry and high-touch. You know the meaning of high-touch, a lot of face-to-face interaction just to buy and sell, and non-essential and essential. So if you graph all the industries, you will have this shape. This is not complete, but this is more or less where they are. And you can split it into four quadrants. So the industries in this first quadrant will be relatively safe because they're doing low touch and essential. Okay? This will be the most high risk because they're doing non-essential high touch. Okay? They will have problem. Okay? They either have to divest or they have to pivot to survive. Those in the middle, these are the 60% I told you, they cannot just sit there because they're operating below break even. Break even is 75%. Unless they can reduce their break even because sales are down. Sales are down. Okay? So these guys don't have to worry anything. They'll still survive with the pandemic, after the pandemic, water, drugs, groceries, fuel, you know. But these guys, they're practically shut down. They're shut down. Do they need recovery? It's a big question. It's a big question. You pivot, maybe divest or change it to something. So what will be the strategies for recovery based on those four quadrants? If you're low touch essential, well, no need for transformation. Just increase capacity, make sure you don't have stockouts, etc. Okay? Just do your best, selling what you do best because they need your products. But if you're essential high touch, then we have a challenge here. You have to cut the touch points, reduce contact time, and go online if possible. So many businesses are doing this. Many businesses, those in the food essentially, because food is essential. But restaurants are high touch, so they go online. So they still survive. Okay. Now we go to the low touch non-essential. Now they have an advantage because it's low touch, but it's non-essential. So you have to reduce price, add value, and pivot to semi-essential. So there'll be some pivot here, which I will discuss. The high-risk people are here. They have to pivot drastically or divest if they cannot do so. So summary, industries in this quadrant will have to do a process pivot, change the way you deliver things, you do things. In this quadrant, all you have to do is do a product pivot because your process is okay. It's low touch. But this one is very high risk, very complex pivot. You have to change radically your product and your process. So this is the lay of the land. This is a more concrete way of recovery. Rather than shotgun, we go specific by quadrant and type of pivot. So what are the advantages of pivot? Well, it's a short learning curve. You can rapidly develop the product. You can do fast scaling, time to market, and you have minimal investment and manpower. The advantage of minimal investment is if you make a mistake, the write-off is very small. You write off very little because you're not investing a lot. You already have the investment. Rather than those companies starting from scratch, they invest huge assets, and then what if the product doesn't sell? Oh, the write-off is huge. The write-off is huge, including inventory. So advantage of pivot is you don't have to buy new capex. Okay? So if you make a mistake, it's a small mistake. Small mistake. So visually, it's something like this. Assuming this is your learning curve or ramp-up speed, either way, it's gonna have an S shape. Okay? You're all familiar with this. Okay? But pivot can make it shorter. It's still the S shape, but you compress time because you reuse the same assets, the same strengths. So I told you recovery is not only how, but how fast. So you cut in half. You cut in half. For typical R&D, you do it in 5 years. Pivot, you do it in 1 year. Well, the analogy is the vaccine. The vaccine usually developed in 10 years, but they compress it to 1 or 2 years. It's something like that. Something like that. Something like that. Okay, just a warning, we have to be ready with sunk costs. Forget about legacy products. The new cost of the new normal is write off your legacy assets if you don't need them. Okay, don't let your past investment affect your future decisions. Like inventory of your old products, write them off. They're not needed anymore. Liquidate them and use the cash to develop new products. Do not delay your strategic pivot because you have legacy products and legacy machines that you cannot repurpose. So from where and what do you pivot? Okay, just more specific, existing competency and talents, unused competencies and talents, hidden competency and talents in your people, existing resources and assets, idle resources and assets, existing, even location and position can be leveraged. Existing customers and existing supply chain. So it's not just in your asset, it could be in your intangible assets that you can pivot from. It saves you time. Okay, so this is one of the models I show. Reimagine your business model, reinvent your products, rethink your markets, re-engineer your process, repurpose your assets, reskill your people, very important, and redefine your partnership with your suppliers and vendors. So when you reimagine your business model, you have to think about many things: your process, your assets, your markets, your people, your partners, and your products. So basically, it's remodeling. So a lot of things will have to transform during a pivot, not just your product, not just your product. Even the relationship with suppliers will change, okay, which I will discuss later on. Okay, so, and then a little bit of discussion of what business are really in. So this will help you think of where to pivot to. Maybe is it selling products, selling services? Is it solution? Is it partnership with a customer? Is it extension of the customer's process, addressing the needs, or a one-stop shop? So the more you expand your horizon, the more you see opportunities for pivot rather than just selling products or pushing products. Okay. Zoom out. How well can you relate to that customer? Then you see opportunities for pivot, whether upselling or cross-selling. So let me give you an example of pivot. So let's say you have 3 products in the old normal before the pandemic, and that comes from 3 core competencies. And then suddenly nobody wants to buy those three products because irrelevant and safe. So what do? Don't reinvent the wheel and don't sell those three products again. Using the same core competency, produce or combined competency, you may produce new normal products from the same core competency. This is a pivot, a product pivot. Or you can add all those three core competency and come up with a new product W that will sell in the new normal. Another strategy is complementation. You have a core competence that you use in product A in the old normal. Suddenly, nobody wants product A. Then you add a new core competency, incremental, that will supplement competence A. And then you come out with a new product or products for the new, by just adding an additional competency, which is not, you don't spend much on this. It's a support to this. Okay? Okay, look at Toyota. Well, Toyota and many other cars started in the textile industry. Many of you may not know that. They were producing spinning machines. They were in the textile. Of course, that became a sunset industry. Okay? And they have to pivot into something else. They have to pivot into car making. But there's a lot of similarity between spinning machine and car engine. So they leverage that expertise in precision machining. Or the only other talent they need to acquire is press and metalworking, because the cars, and of course assembly and the other things. But this is a good pivot. You might think, oh, apples and oranges. to Toyota people, there are more similarities than differences. Okay? So this is their motto, pivoting. So they were able to save the company from the sunset industry of textile. They move into car making. The other example, if you want to be interested in services, is my favorite example is a pawn shop. Let's say for the sake of our argument, you can no longer do business with a pawn shop because of the crisis. What do? Better pawn shop? That won't work. You pivot into a jewelry shop. But let's say nobody wants jewelry anymore. You pivot into a money remittance center. Now you might say, oh, these are apples and oranges. Is this starting from scratch? Is this reinventing the wheel? No, it's not. It's recycling the same core competency. Then you move to several industries for your survival. What are common competency among these three businesses? Huh? Pawn shop, jewelry. One is they know cash management. They know how to handle cash. Secondly, they know how to do fraud detection. They know security management. They know how to protect customer privacy. And they're all in accessible location. So using this strength, you are able to recycle it and move to one industry to another that is relevant during a crisis or post-crisis. So this is just an example. You can do this for many other services. Okay. The other one is repositioning your product. Instead of just selling food, you sell healthy eating. So don't sell meals. Sell the same meals to boost immunity. That will sell. This is pivot repositioning in the market. Okay? Many other examples. Sports shop can sell stronger protection to disease rather than equipment. Travel agents can sell fresh air rather than tours, things like that. Insurance companies can sell peace of mind rather than policies. Department store can sell complete stay-at-home convenience rather than gadgets. Resorts can sell relief from this depression from being quarantined for so long. Yeah. Bookstores can sell DIY knowledge. And of course, dress shop can make you look good during Zoom meetings because there's no more face-to-face, etc. So this is another way of pivoting. Okay? Reposition your products and sell it differently. In a way, it will be relevant in the new normal. And finally, you need to also have an industry-wide cooperation. You cannot do it alone. In some industries, you cannot pivot by yourself, especially if you're in the travel and tours. What am I saying? For example, you are pivoting an airline. You say, okay, we now have face masks, we check everything, but you're only guaranteeing safe flight. But the whole customer journey of a tourist is much more than flying. It's riding a car from his house, it's staying in the hotel, it's dining in a foreign restaurant, and then going to the tourist spot and returning home. So all these touch points will have to be safe. If one is not safe, he's not gonna get out of his house. So there will be no tourists. There'll be, if there are no diners, there are no diners. If there are no guests, no guests. If there are no passengers, there are no passengers. There are no riders. So the whole in these subsectors of the travel and tours will have to work together to make the whole experience safe, not just your own fragment of the experience. So the whole industry will pivot, not just the company, or several industries will have to pivot. Okay, so lastly, who are your partners? Okay, this is very detailed, but just focus on make your customers the partners in co-creating, redesigning your product. Do not just depend on your R&D because they have new fears. You may want to probe what their definition of safety. What is their new expectation to the new normal, and what price are they willing to pay for the new normal product? So validate your pricing with them. Do not just invent your price because they're very concerned about their finances. And also make your employees partners. Make them think like entrepreneurs. Involve them in crisis management. Let them come up with new ideas. Okay. Make them part of the innovation team because they are frontliners. They know what customers want. So get their ideas. Okay. Example, retool your employees, including managers, reskill them, upskill them, cross-skill them, tell them to reinvent themselves, and ask them to protect and save the business like owners. So this is how to pivot. Okay. You're changing the definition of an employee. An employee becomes an owner, becomes an innovator, becomes a salesman. Everybody becomes a salesman, even the back office employees, not only the front line. So a rethinking. Last words, okay? So how do we move forward? Okay. I just want to part with these last words in terms of recovery. We have to accept this. No business or industry is too big to fail in this pandemic. This is not your typical financial crisis. Mom and pop, backyard operation, SME, microfinances, multinational, global, we can fall down. This pandemic is huge. It will not discriminate as to size of business. Okay? So don't think pivot is just for big business or small business. It's for every troubled business. Secondly, don't wait for subsidy and cost cutting to save you. If you're doing something irrelevant and needed, no amount of ayuda or amelioration or bank loans will help you because you're in the wrong business. You have to pivot before you seek all this financial assistance. Finally, not all business and industries will recover when the economy recovers, unfortunately. Some will be left behind. I think our first speaker already mentioned this. Not all will be saved. Not all will be saved. So you should be ready to divest, cut your losses. Finally, the best time to pivot was yesterday. And the second best time is today. So thank you very much and good luck. So you can see all these posts. I'm showing a lot of my posts from my Facebook account and LinkedIn. I have some in YouTube, but just go to this hashtag RTD COVID-19 and you can see more of those posts I've shared with you. Thank you very much, Mike. So, any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. RTD. So you guys, now you know why Prof. RTD is really a guru of operations and business management. No? And of course, I'm privileged together with some other fellow alumni who really got this information, first-hand learning experience from our one and only guru, Professor Rene Domingo. Thank you very much, Prof. RTD. So we can actually have one or two questions. So please type in your questions. We'll just give Prof. RTD some a few seconds to breathe as I acknowledge some important people who help us in our event tonight. No? So I'd like to acknowledge, of course, my 1A Teams consultants, colleagues, and business partners, my fellow board trustees at our AIM Alumni Association, and all my fellow AIM alumni leaders. my fellow board trustees at our Federation of AIM Alumni Associations, headed by our chairman, Sumet Amornjarichit. Sumet is here. Thank you very much, Sumet, for joining us. No? Of course, my Rotary Club of Makati McKinley family, fellow officers, members, and other fellow Rotarians from various Rotary clubs and Rotary districts worldwide. Of course, my Israel Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines family, my fellow board directors and members, my former board trustees at our San Beda University Alumni Association, headed by our president, Attorney Jimmy Buhain. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. My former colleagues and friends in various companies and organizations, and to all our good friends and newfound friends here in this online event. We have more than 150 participants in this Zoom. Special gratitude to the people who made this event happen. Of course, to Prof. Rene Domingo, Mr. Yoni Saar, ICCP President Yoray Ofek, our ICCP Board Director Idan Segev, our Executive Director Jane Lopez. Thank you very much, Jane. Jane is very busy answering all your chat information, requesting for presentation materials. And of course, from our Rotary Club of Makati McKinley, President Mike Manawis, President-elect Francis Castillo, past Assistant Governor Jane Lobos. And of course, my utmost and extreme gratitude and super duper thank you to my Rotary Club of Makati McKinley's membership director, Ms. Vilma Alas, for taking care of the entire production logistics, the Zoom platform, registration, and hosting. Thank you very much, Vilma. And of course, to her ever supportive spouse, Dennis Alas, who did our event poster. And of course, to our IT expert, Ian Torrio, for taking care of our technical concerns. Maraming salamat po. And to all of you here with us tonight at Zoom and in our Facebook page live streaming, thank you very, very much for spending your valuable time with us tonight. So do we have any question? Maybe we can have, I think we have no question, because I think Prof. Rene covered everything. Actually, what Prof. Rene shared with us tonight is actually the entire module, units of operations and business management that we learned from AIM, Of course, with a case study, applying the case study of what's happening to us nowadays, because of COVID. Okay, so I think no more questions. By the way, you can all still watch this webinar, by visiting our 1A Teams Facebook page. Okay. So indeed, this COVID-19 pandemic is a test of our skills, competencies, values, character, resilience, and most importantly, our kind of leadership, all of which we discuss and relearn today, tonight. Remember that we have to fight through some worst days to earn the best days in our lives. Again, I will repeat as what Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. So we must pivot, and pivoting is should be done yesterday, and the best second best thing to do is today. So fellow business leaders and entrepreneurs, as what we always say at AIM, let us all lead, inspire, and transform so that we can all survive, recover, and thrive. And being AIM alumni, we always say and challenge everyone, leadership, we live it. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.